Centuries of obsession, right? Tantalizing promises of treasure, pirate gold, maybe ancient secrets. Some even say the Holy Grail.
It's wild.
But what if? What if recent discoveries, things described even for 2025, suggest the real mystery started way before anyone even found that famous money pit?
That's the intriguing new angle.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Be great to be diving in.
We are taking a deep dive into this enduring Oak Island mystery today. We're pulling insights straight from the sources you gave us. And we're really focusing on, unpacking all the history, the speculation, the findings, but also this newer perspective about activity maybe happening before 1795.
Right. Our mission here is really to sift through these sources, pull out the key bits of info, and help you understand all the layers. It's complicated.
It really is.
We'll trace it from, those teenagers back in the day through centuries of digging and see how these potential 2025 findings might be adding a whole new dimension, hinting at maybe someone wealthy being there long before the pit became famous.
Okay, let's get into that origin story then. 1795, Nova Scotia, Mahone Bay. Pretty remote spot back then.
Yeah, and you've got 3 teenagers, Daniel McGinnis, John Smith, Anthony Vaughn, just exploring, apparently.
And they find.
What exactly?
Well, they spot this circular depression in the ground, about 13 feet across, the sources say, under a big oak tree.
Okay, a hole in the ground. Could be natural.
Maybe, but there are other signs, things that made it look deliberate.
Like what?
Like a pulley system, or part of one, hanging from a branch right over the depression. And nearby trees look like they'd been cut down recently.
Okay, so not just a random dip.
Exactly. To those kids, probably full of pirate stories, this screamed buried treasure.
Right. Obvious conclusion back then, I guess.
So they started digging, grabbed shovels, went at it.
And they found stuff pretty quick.
Almost immediately. Just 2 feet down, they hit flagstones, flat paving stones.
Which, the sources point out, aren't naturally found on Oak Island.
Bingo. First big clue this isn't natural, someone put those there.
And it didn't stop there. Nope. 10 feet down, they hit logs, wooden logs laid out like a platform.
Wow.
Then another platform at 20 feet, and another one at 30 feet.
Okay, that's very regular, 10-foot intervals.
Yeah, super regular. That really cemented the idea for them, This had to be man-made, hiding something valuable.
So word gets out about this, I assume.
Oh, yeah. Takes a few years, but by 1804, a group called the Onslow Company shows up. They've got more people, better tools. They're serious.
Right, taking over from the teenagers.
They pick up where the boys left off, and guess what? They find more platforms. 40 feet, 50 feet, 60 feet down, same pattern.
Incredible persistence, and then...
Then around the 90-foot mark, things get really weird. They find a stone slab, a big one.
With markings.
Yeah, with peculiar carvings on it. Now, the story gets a bit murky here because the claim about what it said came later.
Okay.
But one of the company members apparently reported it translated to something like 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried.
Whoa. Okay, that's specific, if true.
Big if. But imagine finding that or hearing about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but then these went wrong.
Disaster. Right after finding the stone or maybe disturbing something near it, water just starts gushing into the pit.
Gushing, like a leak.
Like a flood. It filled up rapidly to about the 60-foot level, just inundated the whole shaft.
Oh, man. After all that digging.
Yeah. And they couldn't stop it. They tried pumps. They tried digging bypass tunnels to get around the water. Nothing worked.
It just kept refilling.
Constantly. It was like the pit was fighting back.
So this changes everything.
Completely. It wasn't just a deep hole anymore. It seemed like it was designed to flood. Like a booby trap.
An ingenious trap, the sources call it.
Exactly. That transforms the whole thing. It's not just digging anymore. It's trying to defeat a complex mechanism.
Which leads to all the speculation. What could possibly be worth protecting like this?
Right. The theories just exploded. Was it pirate treasure? Captain Kidd's loot was a popular one?
Sure. Famous pirate. Lots of legends.
Or maybe jewels belonging to French royalty, hidden away during, say, the Revolution.
Plausible for the time.
And then there's the really big one, the Holy Grail, maybe brought over by the Knights Templar fleeing persecution in Europe.
The Templar connection. That one always comes up, doesn't it?
It does. And the evidence for some kind of deliberate construction seemed strong.
You mean the platforms, the flooding?
Yeah, the regular platforms every 10 feet, this incredibly effective flooding system. It just screamed human engineering, not some random natural event.
And there was another piece of physical evidence that pointed away from it being purely local or natural.
Ah, yes. the coconut fiber.
Right. Found deep in the pit.
Which is super weird because coconut palms obviously don't grow anywhere near Nova Scotia.
So what does that imply?
It implies whoever built this thing or was working there came from far away, somewhere tropical.
And they had the resources, the knowledge to bring materials like that across the ocean.
Exactly. And this was happening before 1795 when McGinnis and his friends stumbled on it. It pushes the timeline back.
Adds a whole other layer. But, okay, let's be fair. There is a skeptical view, right? The sources mention it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's important you have to look at the island's geology.
Well, what's it like?
It's glacial terrain. Lots of loose deposits, but underneath there's stuff like limestone. And limestone can mean...
sinkholes. Natural collapses.
Precisely. Natural sinkholes, underground cavities, water channels formed naturally.
So the argument is, could the money pit just be a really deep, maybe complex sinkhole?
That's the core skeptical argument, yeah. Could water action and collapses have created the pit? Could those platforms just be layers of natural debris, fallen trees, junk that got washed in and packed down over time?
It's possible, I suppose.
It is. And you have to think about the context back in 1795 or 1804. Those guys weren't geologists.
No, they were looking for treasure.
Right. They saw disturbed earth, the pulley, the regular layers. Their minds jumped straight to a man-made vault, not, karst topography.
Fair point. But whether it was natural or man-made, that discovery lit a fire, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It kicked off this treasure hunting frenzy that... incredibly, has lasted over 220 years. It just hasn't stopped.
And it drew in all sorts of people.
Everyone. Local farmers, businessmen, engineers, even, as you mentioned, a future U.S. president. They were all hooked by the promise of solving it.
So let's talk about some of these later expeditions. After Enslow, who came next?
Well, there were several, but a notable one was the Truro Company in 1849.
What did they find?
They managed to dig back down to about 86 feet. And again, they found more coconut fiber, also charcoal, more signs of human activity maybe.
But the water.
Same problem. Hit the flooding. They tried digging a side shaft like Enslow, hoping to bypass the water, but it collapsed. No luck.
Seems like a pattern.
Yep.
Then things got more industrial.
Yeah, the Oak Island Association, later renamed the Halifax Company, came in around 1861. They brought serious steam-powered pumps, heavy equipment.
Okay, maybe this was it.
They were making progress, but then tragedy struck. One of the steam boilers powering a pump exploded.
Oh, no.
Yeah, killed a worker instantly.
That was the first death.
The first recorded death directly related to the treasure hunt itself. And that's when the legend or rumor of the curse started.
The curse.
The idea that 7 people had to die searching for the treasure before the island would give up its secret.
That's grim and prophetic, sadly.
Yeah, because 5 more deaths would follow in the years to come.
Wow. Okay, before we get to that, you mentioned a future president.
Right. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Long before his presidency, back in 1909 when he was just 27, he was part of a group called the Old Gold Salvage and Wrecking Company.
Seriously. FDR dug on Oak Island.
He was involved, invested. They did some deep drilling, apparently recovered a few old tools like a pickaxe head, bits of an oil lamp. Nothing conclusive, but it clearly made an impression.
He stayed interested.
Yeah, sources say he followed the Oak Island search for the rest of his life, kept tabs on it.
Fascinating side note. Okay, moving into the 20th century. Any closer calls?
Well, in the 1930s, a guy named William Chappell had a determined run at it. He managed to drill down quite deep, about 153 feet.
Yeah.
His drill brought up samples that included wood, bits of metal, and what Chappell absolutely insisted were flakes of gold.
Real gold.
He was convinced he had hit the actual treasure vault. He believed he was right there.
So what happened? Why didn't he get it?
The classic Oak Island problem. Ran out of money, couldn't fund the final massive excavation needed to get down there and confirm it. Heartbreaking, really.
Another so close yet so far story.
Yeah.
And then things got tragic again later.
Yeah, very much so. 1965, Robert Restall, his son, and their partners were working on the island, exploring a shaft known as Borehole 10X, which was separate from the main money pit area but thought to be connected.
What were they finding?
They reported finding what seemed like man-made caverns deep down. Very exciting. But then, disaster.
What happened?
Robert Restall was down in the shaft and was overcome by gas, probably hydrogen sulfide or carbon monoxide from stagnant water or equipment fumes.
Oh, terrible.
His son went down to try and save him and was overcome too. Then 2 other workers went down trying to rescue them.
Don't tell me.
All 4 died. 4 men lost in a single incident.
Unbelievable. That brought the death toll
to 6. Just one short of that supposed 7-death prophecy. eerie stuff.
Absolutely chilling.
Yeah.
So alongside these big expeditions and tragedies, other artifacts were turning up too, right? Not just in the pit.
Yeah, scattered finds have kept things interesting, like a 17th century Spanish coin found in the swamp area. That's quite old.
Okay. What else?
Fragments of parchment, like old paper with traces of ink on them, recovered from deep drilling mud. Very tantalizing.
So just documents, maybe?
Could be anything, couldn't it? Maps, records? Who knows? There was also another stone found with unusual symbols, though its authenticity is debated. Could be real, could be a later hoax. Hard to say.
And always looping back.
The coconut fiber keeps showing up in different digs, different depths, along with other non-native materials. It's a persistent clue pointing to someone from somewhere else before 1795.
And the technology used got more intense over time.
Yep.
Steam pumps, you mentioned.
Steam pumps, core drilling, even dynamite blasting at one point, especially over at Smith's Cove.
Smith's Cove, why there?
That was another area of interest. Some believe they'd found evidence of box drains there, like artificial tunnels built to deliberately flood the money pit, part of the trap mechanism.
But not everyone agreed they were artificial.
No, that's a key point of contention. Some searchers were convinced they found engineered flood tunnels. But geologists like Robert Dunfield, who did a massive, albeit controversial, dig in the 60s, argued they were just natural features, natural cave formations, fissures in the rock carrying water.
So again, that tension, engineered trap versus natural phenomena.
Exactly, it runs through the whole story.
But even with the geological possibility, you have this pileup of artifacts, right? The coin, the parchment, the fiber, bones, a lead cross found later, old wooden structures. It keeps suggesting something happened there.
It does. Even if the money pit itself is mostly natural, the sheer amount of human activity and strange finds over 2 centuries makes you think there's more to the island story. Something significant seems to have occurred there.
Which brings us more towards the present day.
Yeah.
Oak Island in the 21st century.
Yeah, it's become this global phenomenon, hasn't it? Part history, part legend, part ongoing adventure. It's got everything.
Still drawing people in.
Absolutely. Dreamers who think they'll be the ones to crack it, and skeptics who are just fascinated by the persistence of it all.
And obviously, TV has played a huge role recently.
A massive role, bringing the search, the finds, the frustrations, the theories into millions of homes every week. It's amplified the whole thing incredibly.
But now let's circle back to those potential 2025 findings mentioned in the sources. These sound like they could be game changers.
They really could be. The sources hint at things like discovering hidden pathways, maybe artificially constructed in the swamp area.
The swamp. That's always been a mysterious spot.
Always. And also finding a mysterious gemstone on Lot 5, another area of the island.
A gemstone, like valuable.
The implication is maybe valuable, or at least definitely non-local and significant.
And how do the sources interpret these kinds of finds? What's the significance?
Well, the interpretation presented is fascinating. Finding things like a deliberately made path in the swamp or a potentially valuable gemstone, it suggests someone with significant wealth, resources, and planning was active on that island.
Active when?
Long before 1795. Long before McGinnis and his friends found the pit.
So this suggests a presence on the island that predates the money pit story as we know it.
Exactly. Someone with means, maybe doing something entirely different than just burying treasure in that one specific spot.
Could these clues, if they pan out, finally start to unravel the real story, maybe shifting the focus a bit?
That's the exciting possibility. Maybe the money pit, while central to the legend, isn't the only story. Maybe it's part of something much older and broader.
Okay, so let's try and wrap our heads around this. Summarizing this deep dive, Oak Island is just this incredible mix, isn't it?
It really is. You've got potential human ingenuity, maybe building these elaborate structures. You've got natural geology, sinkholes, water channels. You've got centuries of sheer human effort, obsession, tragedy.
And this growing collection of artifacts, some mundane, some truly puzzling.
Yeah. And that core question just hangs there after more than 200 years.
Huh.
Natural formation or sophisticated man-made creation? Or maybe some combination.
Why do you think it keeps grabbing people? After all this time, all the failures.
I think it touches on so many things we find compelling. History, mystery, engineering puzzles, the allure of lost treasure, and just that basic human drive to discover, to solve the unsolvable.
Yeah, that urge to know what's down there.
And the clues that do seem to point towards something deliberate. The design, the non-native stuff like the coconut fiber, the artifacts, they just keep that hope alive, don't they? Maybe just maybe, something truly extraordinary is waiting.
Okay, so final thought then. Thinking about these potential 2025 finds the swamp paths, the gemstone, and the idea that they point to wealthy visitors centuries ago. Does that change how you think about the whole mystery? Does it shift the focus for you?
It definitely adds a compelling layer. If the main story isn't just about what's at the bottom of the money pit, but about who was on that island before the pit and why.
What are the implications of that? If people with serious resources were active there centuries ago for reasons we don't yet understand.
It opens up entirely new possibilities, doesn't it? A much bigger, older puzzle.
It really does. Something for all of us to think about.